brothers, sisters, brother G World 7_D. I'm going back to Queen Khalifa in the island of California she ruled in paradise until the great flood of the early 1800s. Alright, I'm going to go here. I said I wanted to show a little bit the other day, but here it is. This part right here. The original Egypt was the Grand Canyon, Arizona. Now I'm not saying that that's the original Egypt, but what I want to do is make some connections, okay? Get a little more light. There it is. In restricted area of the Grand Canyon, there are pyramids and caves full of hieroglyphics and Egyptian relics. Many people do not know about them, as this information has been suppressed by the federal government for about a century. Much of the area on the north side of the canyon has Egyptian names. The area around 94 Mile Creek and Trinity Creek had areas, rock formations apparently, with names like Tower Set, Tower Ra, Horus Temple, Osiris Temple, and Isis Temple. In the Haunted Canyon area were such names as the Cheops Pyramid, the Buddha Cloister, Buddha Temple, Manu Temple, and Shiva Temple. This entire area with the Egyptian Hindu place names in the Grand Canyon is a forbidden zone. Excuse me. No one is allowed into this large area. The entire area is off limits to all hikers and even, in large part, park personnel. The Park Service only says that access is forbidden to visitors because of dangerous caves. The sky of this area is restricted airspace. The area surrounding this pyramid and cave on the ground is illegal and treacherous to navigate, and all official reports about this from the Smithsonian, you can never trust them, and elsewhere have been censored, modified, nullified, or retracted. This still did not stop people from attempting to visit this part of the canyon. Many have been arrested, and some have died attempting to climb to these sacred sites over the years. It has gotten to the point where the government feels it must have armed FBI agents guarding inside the entrance to the cave that is now known as Kincaid Cave. There were many Egyptian relics that were discovered in the Kincaid's Cave, one of which was pure gold artifacts for the Egyptian king named Khayan. The relics is holding lotus flowers in both hands, native to Egypt. This was found in the first cross tunnel of the cave, which was in the exact same location as the shrines in the Valley of the King's Tunnel cities, before the kings of ancient Egypt began to build pyramids in above-ground cities. It was found that Khayan was a descendant of King Zapneff in Egypt, who may have been Joseph in the Bible. Kincaid's Cave was named after G.E. Kincaid, who was the first to enter the cave. After retiring from the Marines, G.E. Kincaid worked for S.A. Jordan as an archaeologist. S.A. Jordan was sent to the Grand Canyon by the Smithsonian Institute to investigate information reported by John Wesley Powell. The tunnel is presently on the cliff wall 400 feet above the Colorado River in the Grand Canyon. Archaeologists estimate the man-made cavern is around 3,000 years old. This cavern is over 500 feet long and has several cross tunnels to large chambers. This was the lowest level and last Egyptian tunnel city that was built in the Grand Canyon. Since the time that was constructed, archaeologists estimate that the Colorado River has eroded 300 feet lower. There were many Egyptian relics that were discovered in Kincaid's Cave, one of which was pure gold artifacts for the Egyptian king named Khayan. The relics is holding lotus flowers in both hands native to Egypt, which was found in the first cross tunnel of the cave, which was the exact same location as the shrine. In the Valley of the King's Tunnel, before the kings of ancient Egypt began to build pyramids in above-ground cities. Sometimes these books be repeating themselves, but it was found that Khayan was a descendant of King Zapneff in Egypt, who may have been Joseph in the Bible. John Wesley Powell discovered that what is now Powell's Cave. The following is a quote taken directly out of the book by Powell's published. In this canyon, great numbers of man-made caves are hollowed out. What tools did they use to hollow out the caves is still unknown. goes on. I first walked down to a gorge to the left of the cliff and climbed to a bench of the cliff. There was a trail on the cliff bench that was deeply worn into the rock formation, where the trail crossed some glitches. Some steps had been cut. I could see no evidence that the trail had been traveled in a long time. I returned to our camp about 3 p.m. and the men had found more Egyptian relics on cliff walls into the cave. We explored the cave and found the shrine and other artifacts. All right. We continued to survey the canyon and discover more Egyptian tunnel cities. I estimated in my report, I think upwards of 50,000 Egyptians had inhabited the Grand Canyon at one time. All the monuments of the Grand Canyon are named after Egyptian pharaohs. This famous canyon in Arizona is actually an ancient array of pyramids. The site is aligned with the same stars that the pyramids of Giza align with, the constellation of Orion and Pleiades. Some steps had been cut. I could see no evidence that the trail had been traveled in a long time. I returned to our camp about 3 p.m. and the men had found more Egyptian hieroglyphs on cave walls near the cave. We explored the cave and found a shrine and other artifacts we continued to survey. The canyon discovered more Egyptian tunnels. The famous canyon in Arizona is actually an ancient array of pyramids. The site even aligned with the same stars of the pyramids of the Giza line with the constellation of Orion and Pleiades. Now you know. The planet Venus was particularly significant to Maya. The important god Quetzalcoatl, for example, is identified with Venus. The Dresden Codex, one of 4 surviving Mayan chronicles, contains extensive tabulation of appearances of Venus and was used to predict the future. The Maya also went to war by the sky, again triggered by the planet Venus. Venus' war regalia is seen in stelae and other carvings, and raids and captures were timed by appearances of Venus, particularly as an evening star. Warfare related to the movements of Venus was, in fact, well established throughout ancient America. Unlike the Aztecs in Mexico or the Inca in Peru, the Maya were never a unified empire ruled by a single ruler from a single place. Rather, they were a series of smaller city-states who ruled by the immediate vicinity but had little to do with other cities if they were far enough away. The city-states traded and warred upon one another frequently, so cultural exchange, including architecture, was common. Some of the more important Mayan city-states were Tikal, Dos Palas, Calakmul, Caracol, Copan, Corregula, Palenque, Chichen Itza, Uxmal. There were many others. Although every Mayan city is different, they tended to share certain characteristics such as general layout. I'm going to stop right there. All right, I mentioned before that you see this image right here. I showed you before in one of my other videos. I talked about how these large rocks they were cut into. You see how this is cut into? He highlighted in his book. You see the angles right here. This is just not no natural geological rock formation. You can tell the difference from natural geological rock. This is probably natural rock, but it was obviously carved in and cut and measured and aligned. This is done by humans, man. I'm not saying this is Egypt or anything, but what I'm saying, the parallel is this. These individuals carved into rock, into natural rock that was probably formed through geological natural circumstances, and then they were cut and carved into. They did this all over the world. You see it in Asia. They did it over in Africa. They did it in the Americas. And what's so unique is that they did not have the so-called simple tools. These people knew high-skill mathematics, and they knew how to create. They knew how to smelt and create iron. All right, they created a form of iron that were able to cut into rock. They didn't have no simple copper tools doing that. They were doing a lot of smelting, and they smelted iron, and they were able to create a piece of strong form of iron, steel substance to blast into that rock. It's obvious. And to cut and carve into that, and to shape and make images, or not only images but angles. And they use mathematics, like I said, they use some form of calculation system where they did their measurements to cut and line and to measure from width and to height. They did that. So these weren't no simpleton individuals. They did this in America. I showed you what they did over in Arizona, what the ancient ones did over in Arizona and Colorado and Utah. And I showed you how that parallels over to what is over in Africa with the Dogon. And then also in Asia, how you see them cut into rock. This was something that was done globally. I mentioned these other videos. Smelting of iron was an ancient culture or ancient form of high technology that was used by the ancient peoples here in America. And with black people here in America, I know some of you don't like the term black, but I'm going to use this. There was various different types of Negroes here. So our features are various different. We have various different types of features. Our features vary. Excuse me. Just because our features vary don't mean we have white in us. Unfortunately, ignorant Negroes who have not studied history do not know about the original Europeans of being black. But there's so many different types of black people that are here in Americas that our features vary. And it shows you, it tells you the uniqueness in us and who we are. We did not come over here in those slave ships. Most of us is already here. And I believe that some of the Californian blacks might have migrated over to the South, because when you look at some Negroes in the South,